Omniverse. I am Joe Bear,
I'm Zach,
And I'm Diego.
and this is Behind the Beard.
or lack thereof.
Ha. And today we are starting our new series all about change. Change can be so scary. It can be the fearful thing that holds us back. And we are all going through it on a daily basis. We have to march ourselves into the unknown. And sometimes that's just scary. And what better time to talk about something scary than it's Spooktober? And here we are in scary season. Zach, what do you feel about change and the fear of the unknown?
Well, I love spooky season, but in reality, it's the first thoughts of the unknown for me are always like the self fight, right? Like you're not good enough for this. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve to be here. Like this was luck. You're not even down this path of going down this unknown. Like why are you here? And that's my first battle that I have to go through. And even if it's one of those topics where whether it's a change in a career or change in a client, change in a process, I think that's how it typically begins for a lot of people because it's uncertainty, it's scary. And first conversation is how do I get past this?
Yeah, that's the first stop. It's just kind of that xenophobia, just irrational thoughts and beliefs, strange and unknown things, right? We want to get away from that. We want to start to go into, how do we address that, on a daily basis? How do we overcome some of that imposter syndrome that we all feel from time to time of, oh, I'm not good enough. Why am I here? What is going on in all of this scary world that can be happening? So I think about this, and Diego, I'm going to ask you this question, but first I want to frame it first with a quote from Nelson Mandela. He learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not who he does not feel afraid, but who he conquers that fear. So again, it's just taking that step out, being a little bit brave to go on to the next step. How do you start framing yourself internally to put yourself out there and to kind of conquer this fear of the unknown yourself?
Yeah, I think the first thing is being aware of the fears that you're feeling, and like Zach said, right, it's a very human emotion to fear the unknown or to be outside of our comfort zones. As humans, I think we're very easily trapped into that, right, into doing the same things, repeating and getting into a routine, and it works for us as a species to be into those patterns. But we also have to be aware of, like, if I don't step out of this, nothing changes, and if nothing changes, I don't progress as a person. So I think the first step for all of us is just to be aware of, okay, this is why I'm afraid of this, because I'm stepping outside of what I know. I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone. But these are the goals that I'm moving towards once I step out of it, or this is the path that I'm trying to follow, or the new path that I'm trying to build because I can face these fears.
I would say that throughout my personal life, my career, anything, I don't think I've ever had a moment of growth from being comfortable. Like any time where I had gained extra recognition, a star, pat on the back, promotion, it was because something leading up to that was hard. Something leading up to that was difficult. Something leading up to that was not my normal day to day. And something I've taught myself in my last, I would say probably 1 or 2 years is during these times, although internally I am scared beyond belief and I have that fear of letting somebody down, whether it's, somebody in personal life, somebody we work, like that's that natural ability of mine, but I don't push that out. I do the exact opposite and I create almost a facade of like, I'm bold, I got this, I know this, even in the reality of, hey, I probably don't have any clue what I'm doing.
That's part of the DNA, like Diego referenced to, is that lizard brain feeling of here's what I know has kept me here. Here's what has kept me alive, kept me fed, kept me housed, all of those things that, are creature comforts that we're really chasing after. This is what's going to keep you going. So don't really explore outside of, the next steps of your life because this has been good for you. But then once we start to chase that uncomfortableness a little bit, face that fear and realize that it's good for us to be a little bit fearful, but then to step out to it and embrace it. And so when we stop letting it paralyze us, we start living a life a little bit more fuller. And that's why we need to embrace that fear within ourselves to understand that, maybe there are some tasty treats along the way of, okay, yeah, we can move this needle a little bit forward here. We don't have to take big steps, but we can start embracing a little bit more outside of our comfort zone itself. When we start to learn a little bit more about our surroundings, we start to learn about ourselves, then we can see that those comfortable feelings we thought were keeping us safe were really just keeping keeping us back. We weren't allowed to really explore.
I think now that you bring up food, I think that's a really good first. Trying out something that you've never tasted is a good starting point. It will open up your brain. It will like literally physically in your tongue. It will make you feel new tastes and open up your mind to new things. It doesn't have to be this big packing up my whole thing, moving to the other side of the world kind of fear of the unknown. You can start with little things, right?
I mean, ideally, I would love to just like be one of those people who can do that. I've always had been envious, like pack up your life and just go to like a different location and just like almost be like this nomad type of deal, because that is, I don't know, that's just a personal segue there. But
Yeah, that's something I've done before, right? I took my entire family and I just got up and moved. Really wasn't certain that I had a career at the end of the rainbow. I thought it was going to be down there for me, and we moved. And did it feel great? No, scary as can be. Then when I got down there, the big move across the country, didn't have friends, family, neighbors, anybody that I knew. You just get over it. You figure out, okay, this isn't so bad. I'm a survivor. I can think for myself. I can, embrace a little bit larger of a network to understand how to get there. I mean, we all got Google Maps nowadays. We can find a Walmart. We can find, a network. We can go hang out. We can find somebody that's going to meet, our social needs or help us out with our kids or the sports or, violin lessons. I mean, all of that's going to be there, right? But when we're thinking about that big cross-country move, I'm set, and it's tough to give that up. And that's one of the things that humans are really good at doing, is recognizing that fear, right? It's universal to all of us. We see it. And, when you see it, you get a little bit fearful of that criticism that could cause. You brought that up before, of letting somebody down. But what if I don't do a good job? What if I don't go above and beyond? What if I fail, right? No one wants to fail. Nobody comes in to work every day and go, I'm going to fail great today. Although we should. We should.
I think we've heard that from probably, adult figures in your life over time and time again, of you can't please everybody. And you're going to go into a meeting, you're going to go into a social interaction, you're going to go into a restaurant. You're going to just, if you're around people, there's probably a guarantee that in that circle, the square, wherever you're in, somebody's not going to agree with you. Somebody's not going to think you're not doing the right thing or the right job, or the right choice. And I think that is something to really think about. Is at the end of the day, it can sound selfish, but you got to look out for yourself and you got to push yourself to a limit. And sometimes there's going to be some toes that are stepped on, and that's okay. If you're doing it in an approach that is beneficial for all around and you're seeing a good of it, you're going to mistake, you are. You're going to step on toes and probably break a couple, but toes can be repaired and, and we can move on. So I think that's just another piece that kind of can pull people back, is I'm going to make somebody mad.
One of the things I face this every day is I oversee the content that we publish in all of our social networks here at Omni, right? Social media audiences are probably some of the most difficult to please ever. And we always get all of that feedback, but also trends in social media are usually changing and changing and changing. So we never have the perfect formula for content that works. We're always reinventing and trying new things. And maybe that part of trying new things is what you just said, right? We don't know if it's going to work. We don't know if it's actually going to generate clicks and interactions, but we just keep rolling and keep learning from what we see outside, from what we see it's trending, and create new things with that.
Going viral is like a 1 in a million shot, right? And that's what you're working
Goals.
towards. And that hashtag Omniverse to the moon, right? We're trying, to make that something to grow viral itself.
Hashtag behind the beard.
Hashtag behind the beard. Hashtag Omniverse to the moon. Hashtag gig life. But we're trying these different things, and we understand that failure is an option, right? It's got to be part of our plan. And once you start to go, okay, well, that is an option, that is part of our plan, then it's not so scary that that's gonna happen, because then you can fail really, really fast, and you go, okay, well, what did I learn from that? But I don't like calling it failing. It's either you succeed or you learn. There is not a failure in sight. We're just learning how to do it better next time, or how to, what's the next marketing trend that's going to take place in the social media world. Does Zac need to do a TikTok dance for Omni? Probably. We all want it. But again, it may not go viral for us. It may flop, and that's okay. So we ride that wave of fear of we're out there in some limbo. Every business has challenges. We're frightened at the pace of, what's happening. It's just everyone's screwing around, but we don't know what the end result is going to be. Sometimes we just don't. And that's super scary, because we want to have an illusion of control, right? And some of that is the fear of unknown, is we just don't have control over it. But you make the plan, you work the plan, and then you learn really quickly of what to take the next steps focus on.
The fear of the unknown and the control piece is something that really just stuck out to me, because what you do have control over, Joe, we've had conversations before, and in the business world and through different segues and things of that nature, of where I had a bad week or had a bad day and performance didn't deliver, and it's like that innate behavior to be like, you just really messed up this day, like, dang, beat yourself up. But in that moment is something that you've said often, is like how you react and how you bounce back. So there are going to be numerous times where you're not in control, but you are always in control of how you're reacting to a situation and what plan you're putting forth for go forward, because those two components in themselves are going to make or break you. That is where you can focus your control in.
Ooh, I like that. And sometimes, just social media, we're trying to control it. We're trying to control our lives. We're trying to control everything in there. And then, today we're in a weird aspect of time and events. We've got more of our lives online for display for everyone else, and those are highlights of our lives. We don't post my oldest daughter throwing a temper tantrum online and be like, look at my exciting life. You post, oh, hey, look, you just did this something awesome, right? And so then we start to learn as a society, and this is one of the big factors that we're coming into, is started this world in the digital learning, is I must be perfect the first time. Why? Because I'm comparing myself to everybody's highlight reels, and man, if I'm not perfect, then let me tell you, maybe this is not for me. I'm scared to fail now because I'm not on that standpoint. But that's just somebody's highlight reels. We've got to be okay with that failure and that learning. And the greatest among us are not where they are because they succeeded and they were perfect from the get-go. They've learned or failed time and time again. We just keep learning how to do this better.
Yeah, my number one suggestion there will be look at the camera roll from that person and look at how many times they had to take the picture, how many times they had to record the video to actually get that reel. Yeah, it's not the first time for sure.
Or add the filters, or add, all the touch-ups to, put on something that is maybe not a reality. And in that fear of the unknown, I think it's because we've been in a society where we all are hungry for recognition. We're all hungry for that next award, the accolade, that tag in teams of, somebody, really appreciated the work that you did. And you, in an unknown situation, okay, I'm taking on, new accounts recently. I don't know how that's gonna go. Should I have just stayed where I was, where, I was getting praise and really delivering? Okay, well, if I stay there, then how long is that going to sustain? Or it's that human nature of like, you want to get the hugs and get the stars, and don't know if you get that in the unknown.
What you're doing is you're leaning just outside your comfort zone. You're learning a little bit more to keep on earning, but because you want to return it all to those that are around you. You want to keep returning and giving back a little bit more. And that makes the fear of this unknown a little bit less scary for all of us around, because you do a great job, Zach, and you, Diego, for helping empower those around you to, oh, hey, it's not so bad. Hey, I can show you the way. Hey, we can do a little bit better here. When we start to give back to each other, then this fearful world that we're in gets a little less scary. And then we've got to take a real big step back for just a moment here and look at the big world and this huge red flag, this microcosm of event that's going on, and we look at just everything else in comparison, it's not quite there, right? And we got to know that it's not so scary when we take that step out. My 1% better for today is a huge leap for me, but I'm not going and taking a step on the moon, right? I'm taking my step towards that, but I'm not there yet. So then it's just, okay, well, this isn't so bad. It's just a little bit of a change. We start to embrace it just a little bit more, and then it gets a little bit easier. So Zach or Diego, what have you found like a step that gets a little bit easier? What are you doing in your life where you're defeating fear and building courage?
One thing that I have pushed forward a lot throughout like career journey, I know I touched on it before, just stepped into a new role in the last month, and something I've always pushed myself for is your name's attached to whatever your output is. And if somebody's going to go back and look at that, let that be your motivator. There can't be a situation where you didn't improve from what happened. You didn't own it. So you didn't like push yourself to that full potential, right? And I think even if there's, to Joe's point, it's not a failure, but even if there's a shortcoming, you can end that given day, you can end that given situation knowing your name's attached to it and you did all you can to make whatever it was, an interaction, a task, a project, a social setting successful, then that's how I kind of motivate myself, that I gave it what I could and I didn't leave anything, in the trunk to save for later.
Love it.
Mine's super cheesy, but I think this thing we're doing right now, that this is a stepping outside of my comfort zone. Like I'm really comfortable staying on the background and doing all and behind the scenes, but like stepping in front of the camera and actually talking to you guys here, I think that's outside of my comfort zone, and that's moving into something new. But I really like two things that we have talked about, and the first one is the awareness of where your fear is and what are you feeling that fear for, and the second one that you kind of touched on, Joe, is how the support system you have around you, the people you have around you, how that helps you face those fears.
That's a big one. I totally
huge.
left that one out. Is who can you lean on?
Who's
Get
your
that.
circle?
Everybody needs reassurance.
Yeah. I think, as we head out to the social world, right? And I implore all of you to hashtag Omniverse to the moon, call out your circle, your 5 people who make you your average, right? That's such a powerful thing. And as I grow older and grayer, I understand that how much power and impact those who you surround yourself with change your thoughts of, that self-talk that we have built within us. It comes from our interactions, and we're creating self-limiting beliefs or, just negative mindsets. It's all up here. And when you start to get a positive influence, and Diego and Zac, you're both a super huge positive influence on me, and so go, yes, we can go tackle this. Yes, we can get around XYZ problem challenge, and that changes my self-talk of, oh, it's Monday. Oh, thank gosh, it's Friday. It's no longer that. It's, man, I ran out of time this week because I had more challenges I want to go after. There's something big and scary ahead of me. I don't know how to solve it, but I'm going to get there. I just need more time to get to that event. When we start calming the mind down a little bit and we get a little bit more peaceful with what's happening between the ears, it stops spinning a little bit, get a little bit more centered, and we're able to drive just that 1% forward. And that's all it takes to get through that next wall, to get through that next statement. And this is not going to happen overnight, right? We're all on this journey together. I think since we've started doing this podcast recording, all of us have grown, and just what we're doing. And Diego, you feel comfortable enough to step in front of it, and you're doing a great job today. We implore you for that. We wanted you to bring yourself, because Zac and I are pretty boring, and you bring the super
Speak for
flair.
yourself, but
But we keep moving forward. We keep marching just a little bit more there. We practice that mindfulness. And then, I think it's just some simple rules to follow here to kind of wrap this up of how to address that fear of the unknown for us. What are some of those simple steps you take on a day-to-day basis, or you could recommend for others to do? What works really well for you to keep on this pathway?
What we said, right? The first one is being aware of what things we're doing differently and what things we're doing the same, and what can change. How can we be better, and what is keeping us from getting better at that? Then the second one, what we just said, right? That network around you or the people around you that help you get through or get better, and that can be people that are physically in your house, or that can be people that are 1,000 miles away, like you guys for me, or that can be somebody in a chat, that it can be somebody in a voice note, that can be like, it doesn't have to be a person standing in front of you. That's what I mean. And then I think the third one, and you also talked a little bit about it, both of you, is we have to be aware of the time that we're in. We have all these resources, right? So we can take them both ways. Either that's what scares you the most, or that's what gives you the tools and empowers you to be able to change. Because I don't think ever before in history, and this is probably true every time everyone says it, but I don't think there's a time in history that there's so much information available, so much resources available for you to actually understand your fears and go and face them and change and evolve. So both ways, right? Do you want to be scared of all what is out there, or do you want to take it and use it to help you?
I was sitting here like, gosh, is there something else that I could add on that that Diego didn't touch on? But I would say for me, my top 3 would be challenge yourself. As it's kind of been a common theme, is if you're feeling comfortable, get up and move. Push yourself to another limit, another seat on the couch, and just reframe kind of your mind on what can be done next. Other piece for number two, take time for yourself to evaluate, right? I think there's a lot of to be discovered when you make time with yourself. Block off that calendar for 30 minutes, take a day off, or go for a walk, find what your place is to really feel those thoughts and understand the process of how the unknown can help you. Because I think that's a big piece throughout all of it, is everybody has these different things that work for them, like all three of us do. And you have to find that through error, through time, but also just giving yourself the time. And then lastly, I would just say, you find yourself somebody that, I know we talked about a good group of individuals, but find somebody that you can align to and really push ideas and planning in different, even if it's something so minuscule, and they'd be like, hey, I just want to bounce an idea, or I want to word vomit for you for a second. And just having that, sometimes vocalizing something for me is really beneficial. What would your top three be, Jim?
Oh, I was totally asking you so I could copy all of your guys's. Mine is just, the recent book I read was, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. And there was a lot of rules within there just to kind of help you take some steps into there. It's, never do or refrain from doing because you are concerned about what people might think of you, right? Being an innovator, being an idea, it takes courage, it takes bravery to try something different that we've not done before. And so sometimes you just have to the step and be okay with learning really quickly, or putting your neck out on the line, so to speak. And then it goes back to another thing, is I do like to challenge myself, for more fear defeating items, right? Old book, I don't know if you guys have ever read it, but the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. There's a ton of challenges within there. And I go back to this book probably annually to start thinking, well, how can I do this differently? How can I block my time? How can I take these next steps to overcome, all of this roadblocks in front of me, which I've personally put there through my self-defeating thinking, right? And, when we embrace that, we know that's what's happening, but we can start to see the vision, the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Well, those 1 steps, 2 steps just make it easier. I think from a third perspective is I just keep learning, right? I read a lot of books. I listen to podcasts that kind of overcome all of this. Yeah, I mean, I listen to fun stuff too, but I just really geek out when it comes to, how to be a better human being. We're all on our journey. We're all working really, really hard to be the best, personal person we can be, work person, and mindful self person that we can be. And it just takes time, energy, and effort. And then that's probably the last thing, is just putting in the effort itself. One of the things that really takes us from ordinary to extraordinary is a little bit of effort. My biggest thing as I walk away from our conversation today, before we go into our new segment, which we'll have to come up with a quick theme to here on the fly. But as we are all working to embrace the fear of the unknown, I want everyone out there in Omniverse to think about this. The worst excuse is a great excuse. It traps us into preventing us from trying. Go out and try. All right, Omniverse, this is our new segment. Quick Pick'em, I guess we'll call it. We'll give them up with a better name as we explore this more. But we're going to ask each other some quick questions. And it looks like I'm going to start with you, Diego. What are you reading, or what's your favorite book?
I think one of my favorite books ever is The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. So Don Norman is this guy who did UX, user experience or user interfaces for Apple and for other places, and he's a lot into human-centered design. So the design of everyday things kind of revisits all the objects that we have around us, like a teapot or a coffee maker, and why they are the way they are, and what's the thinking behind that, right? Sometimes I'm a graphic designer myself, and in design, we forget about the obvious, and we don't think about those little details that actually make life easier or that actually make things better. So yeah, the design of everyday things, I think that's probably my favorite.
All right, with that, I'd like to ask you a question, Zach. What is your Vecna song?
What is my Vecna song? So for anyone maybe does not know, if you haven't watched Stranger Things, maybe go binge so you can get the hashtag relatable. But anything, and call me as basic as I can be, But anything by best songwriter of all time, Taylor Swift is definitely my Vecna song. She just has a way with words.
T Swift to the rescue for Zach, for sure. Great.
All right, Joe, let's see here. How do you hashtag treat yourself? Since I've said hashtag probably 20 times this episode. I had to end on
Hashtag
it.
treat yourself, popularized by Parks and Rec, where you take a day and you just treat yourself, and then it's kind of taken off. That's a great question. I think as of lately, it's go for a long run. I know it doesn't seem like I'm treating myself, but it's that mental clarity state. It's the get all the blah out of my system and come back a happier, healthier human being. That's really how I am treating myself lately. But I will say there's a Friday night adult beverage from time to time as well.
I can agree to both of those. Sometimes, I go on that run so that I don't feel as bad for that adult beverage later.
Good point. That's a good point. All right. We've talked a lot about the fear of the unknown and how to embrace it, how to overcome it. We would love to hear your steps of overcoming your fear of the unknown, or maybe what is spooky to you in this spooky October. We would love to know that of what's driving you and moving you forward there. And I just want to say thank you all for another great episode of Behind the Beard, even though this is our first one with the new season. But anyway, as always, Omniverse, keep learning, or I should say, hashtag keep learning, and let us know what you're learning about too. I am Joe Bear, and for my co-hosts, Zac and Diego, this is Behind the Beard, hashtag Omniverse to the moon.
Okay, so now I'm actually paying attention. I won't get a little pop-up up there. That was good, though. Okay.
We got that one out of the system. 6 more to go.